Buongiorno. Mark my words, Mel. Early by Christmas.
Even now, less than a score of years after the World War,
Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact.
we shall never surrender!
This is the Militaria podcast, brought to you by your friends at Queen City Militaria, Wehrmacht Militaria, and SMG War Relics.
You know what I'm saying? It's going to go right there. And then I'm going to say, welcome back to the Militaria podcast. This is the Mac Show 2024 post-game show. I am Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria, and I'm joined by my friend and my other friend. Let's start with Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
How we doing, everybody? Pleasure to be here as usual.
And my other friend, Billy Kramer of WehrmachtMilitaria.com.
I wish I was friend number one, but I get it. I'm friend number two.
You guys are both friend number one to me, to be completely honest. Guys, we're going to talk about the Max. We gotta jump into it. I know you brought some stuff to show. You got some stories to tell. I wasn't there, so I'm excited to live vicariously through you. But first, how's everything else going?
It's actually kind of shitty for me right now. When I get back from the shows, I got shit all over the place, trying to unpack, trying to get organized, and I have orders I'm trying to fill. And no matter how hard I try, there's always something that gets purchased that I don't have online. It gets purchased online, and I'm like, oh fuck, I don't have that, and I have to send I'm sorry, please forgive me for being a complete scumbag and selling your shit at the Mac Show. So I deal with that, and that's kind of humbling, because it's like, man, I could have sold it twice if I had two of them. But you know what I mean? But
it's like the worst part of it is when people come at you and they're like, can I get this? And you're like, oh no.
And
now
you're like,
I look
oh,
disorganized.
shit. Yeah. So that's that. And then stuff's piling up. I got to do photographs of shit, and just a lot of crap going on. I got bids and quotes and stuff I got to get back to and finish up. And I got freaking 175 graded baseball cards coming in, so I got to deal with that whole thing. That's a little side hustle of mine. So I got a lot going on.
People after the last episode, they were making some comments online about the fact that you cuss. You got a bit of a habit of cussing on the podcast. Do you have anything that you want to say to your critics?
They're not critics. I think it's all love, especially my UK brethren, my UK and my Northeast brethren, who are very foul language connoisseurs, and I did go back and count, and I told you guys that I counted 42 F-bombs in the last episode, which I thought was a reasonable amount, because for the amount I'm talking, well, I guess it is a lot, huh? But Billy came in at he was way behind it with about 20 some odd F-bombs, and Josh, you were bringing up the rear with a paltry 2 F-bombs, which I'm actually kind of disappointed, because I thought higher of you.
Dude, yeah, most of the time that you guys are just going off, I just sit here and I think, oh no, I can't believe they just said that. And so that means that like I get to kind of play like the good guy, where I'm like, oh, I never cuss. I don't say a bad word on the podcast. Everybody, my grandma could listen to it and she'd be
The
like,
choir boy. The choir
exactly.
boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And don't say cuss. It's not cuss in the North. It's curse in the North.
I know, but it's so much funnier to say cuss.
It is kind of.
That's a cuss word, dude.
It's swearing. You just say swearing. You guys are weirdos.
No, but cuss is kind of like.
It is regionally more Southern.
It makes me feel like, I don't know, it's a certain way. I don't know how to describe it. Cuss is just.
Your mama heard you cussing down there.
Yeah, cuss is very
this weekend.
It's very homey feeling, like, oh, you cussed. When you cursed, it's like, you fucking cursed, you son of a bitch. Like, that just feels right.
That's true. When I was a kid, though, to Bill's point, I did say swear. Dante, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, I want to talk about, well, not like last episode, but I'm going with a little, little German. What's the correct pronunciation of this? Bill, you're a German speaker.
I would say Tucher, probably.
Tucher, root beer, which is a red beer, right?
A red, yeah.
So yeah, it's just a red lager, and it's delicious. It's not my favorite from this company. They make a mean fucking wheat beer. A mean wheat beer. It's good. You should try it.
Okay.
Or wheat beer.
All right. Fair enough. Bill, what's going on with you, buddy? How you been?
Oh, you want to talk to friend number two now? It's my turn to shine?
Hey, man, listen.
You can jump in at any time, Bill.
I
No one's holding you
got
back.
nothing. I can't defend what I said, but
No.
you're all number one in my heart.
No. So I actually, in relation to what Dante said, so before I leave for the Max, I'm shipping out orders, and I got this guy at the post office. And I didn't go to my normal post office. I went to the fucking Kenosha one. And this dickhead obviously fucking just started. And I'm trying to tell him how to do his job. I'm like, hey, man, you need to do this, this, and this, because it's an international, and it was going to Australia. I know I'm not supposed to be shipping there, but I have yet to lose anything, knock on wood.
It just wasn't German. It's fine.
Yeah, so long story short, I'm just ready about to strangle this fucking guy. And I'm trying to be extremely patient with him, but I'm also like, I really do know what he's supposed to be doing. I'm trying to coach him through it. And long story short, after about 10 minutes, I'm like, dude, I'm done. I have a flight to catch. Like, I can't do this with you. So I took that package with me all the way to the Max, and then I brought it all the way home, and I saw it. When I got home from the Max, I put it right there. I'm like, you got to get that out tomorrow. And I sent the buyer, like, hey, I'm sorry. I have the Max show. And he was totally cool about it. He understood. And I have no fucking clue where the package is right now. And I have to send the John Deere letter myself of like, hey, I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I had the package. I traveled with it. It went home with me. It's somewhere in my house. But, after the show, you're discombobulated for like a week. It just, you got to get back in your routine. You got to unpack. I'm meeting Jeremy at another house of mine in Arlington Heights here. Coming Saturday, I got to get back my inventory because he's got all my stuff. Because I flew back and yeah, just getting back in the swing of things, man. It's always rough after a show. And no one realizes like how big of a deal it is to go out there and, take off a week. It's fun.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So yeah. And you also, Billy, you know this, you get into a routine, like you're on fire when you're really having a good week of photographing stuff, unpacking stuff, listing stuff, shipping stuff out. You've got this, the wheels are turning it. And as soon as you get thrown off the track by going to a show, you come back and you're like, oh shit, where do I start? Like it's a lot. It's a lot to get back in the groove.
It ruffles those feathers, baby. And Yeah.
What are you drinking tonight over there, Bill? What are you drinking?
Oh, just dirty cans of Miller Lite. Nothing fancy. Last week, Dante made fun of my Point Lager, and Point's a brewer up here, and he called me white trash. And it's like, you know what? I'll show you white trash.
I'm just talking. Listen, as I do so often, Bill, I was just talking out of my ass. I don't know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Point's a good beer, but this week I'm going white trash, baby, and I'm drinking.
Right, good for you. Well, it's
crazy party trick.
It's great taste and less filling. So
it is. And if you need more of them, you can have more of them. It's nice.
It's a crazy party trick the way that Dante talks out of his ass. I remember the first time I saw
it. He cusses a lot.
Saw it?
You know that?
You saw it? Did it?
Oh yeah. This guy's been known to cuss right out of his ass.
Did my wink at you? Give you the old hey?
I might get bleeped out.
The old starfish.
I might have to bleep that out. Not because it's not allowed, but just because the content itself is disturbing for some viewers.
It's be talking about winking on the podcast.
We already have an advisory that's like, hey, just in case you don't want to see this, don't look at it. Now I got to be like, if you don't want to hear about Dante's butthole,
Josh, if you get a little closer, I'll invite you to.
Oh my god!
If we're gonna pause real quick, let me pet the dog so it doesn't. No, that's funny. That's what my uncle calls it.
No, he does not.
Oh my god!
Oh, it's always a dirty uncle, isn't there?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'd like to lick that. Like, what is it?
Oh, he's talking about her. You dumbass.
Yeah.
I'm talking about her.
You definitely misjudged this one. I think we should, at this point, we should leave this in.
I'm crying so hard.
It goes a little bit off topic.
No, it's a that looks like a.
No. This is not like a thing that Dante made up. This is a very normal colloquialism.
Shit. Oh, Billy.
I'm gonna have to search as soon as we get.
He's so innocent, so naive sometimes.
Please cut all this out.
I'm just gonna have to bleep it out repeatedly, but it's like so sweet and wholesome that we have to kind of keep it in.
The bleeps would actually make it even funnier.
Oh man!
Not fucking talk about fucking.
No, we have to. It's great stuff.
What are you talking about?
Let's tone it down a notch and ask our level-headed friend Josh, what is he drinking tonight and how has he been? Let's combine them both together.
Oh man, well, I'll start off. You guys might have seen it. It might have peeked into camera already, but I'm drinking a Lord Hobo Boom Sauce.
What the F is that, dude?
Dude, the boom sauce, it's a double IPA, 8%.
Ugh,
It's
That sounds disgusting. Sounds absolutely
I love it.
disgusting. Double
Big
It's like a
fan.
guy in a beanie would drink at all times.
Oh my god!
Dude, real
you
Josh
should just
Doda
take a
fans.
stamp and put hipster and smash it right on your face.
Oh my
It's
god,
all
real
coming together now. It just doesn't
real
make
Josh
any
Doda
sense.
fans, real Josh Doda heads, they know the boom sauce, my favorite local beer,
Jesus.
local-ish. And
It sounds like it should be a hot sauce, not a beer.
dude, you drink yourself one boom sauce, you're doing fine. You drink yourself the whole 4-pack, you're crying at a video game. You never know what's gonna happen. You never know. And that's the beauty of the boom sauce. It just helps you really get into it. So I'm having a boom
Yeah,
sauce
plug
over
for
here.
boom
And
sauce.
it's been Lord Hobo, friend of the show.
Is
But
it
it's
local?
been, oh yeah, they're from Massachusetts. They're good. It has been a tough week,
Oh, no.
not just because I didn't get to hang out with you guys, because obviously that's what I'd want to be doing, but I was like, I don't have the time off, so I'll just like sit this one out, and we were gonna have Carmen's sister visit for a couple days, but it would be at the end of the weekend, and I was like, whatever, it'll be fine. Saturday, I'm at work. I'm like, feeling kind of terrible. Ended up getting COVID, gave COVID to my girlfriend, gave COVID to my girlfriend's sister and her fiance. And so we've all just been like hanging out at home, watching movies. We watched Jojo Rabbit. It's terrific. I know you guys know that.
Oh, such a good movie.
So
Love that
good.
movie. Yeah, I
So
love that movie.
good. And also, it's a beautiful thing when you get to watch a World War II movie with your significant other, and they're like, "That was amazing," and you're like, "Yes!" Like for
Yeah, it's a
you
high
get it.
five, buddy. That's a
Exactly.
high five all the way around.
So, we've been trying to make the most of having COVID, which has been, difficult. But I got to take a bunch of naps, which is great. Everybody loves that. And I've been working on a beard because the SOS is coming up in a few short months, and I want to be able to harvest a good mustache so I can have my old timey cowboy mustache again, just like last year.
Yeah, and we were talking about Josh's method of harvesting a beard or a mustache is just to grow the whole thing out and just shave off everything else except the mustache, which is brilliant because I feel like, not that I can grow a good mustache because I can't, but when I've tried, I'm always just shaving around it every other day or whatever. It's a lot of work, and you miss, and it's like uneven. You got to go back to the other side, and
oh, you're preaching to the choir, brother. And
Oh,
I'll tell you,
what a
that's
mess.
why I just let it all get real wild. And then, just after Christmas, it makes sense to shave the beard anyway, right? That's when you get rid of everything that's not mustache related. And
I
then
want
you
a
just
cool
got yourself
mustache.
a big
I've
old
never had one.
mustache.
I've only had the beard. How do you?
Billy, you would look like an amazing porn star if you got.
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
You
I do
should do
already, but I guess we have to edit this episode. My mother watches this.
Jill,
Gentlemen, please.
you should grow a mustache for the SOS, and then we can both have mustaches.
No, because then you're gonna be like boom sauce, and I don't want that. I don't want to look like you at the SOS.
I wasn't gonna bring any.
Couldn't pay me to drink a double IPA. It's just
It is disgusting.
different strokes for different folks.
So let's move along here, gentlemen, and let's go to what happened at the Max. Well, actually, I want to talk about the whole thing with the Max versus the SOS, where you can't get in a day early to set up because it drives me up the flipping wall that you have to go in Wednesday to get your packet. Well, you don't really have to go if you're a dealer. You just show up on You could just show up on Thursday. There's no advantage really to getting there on Wednesday. At the SOS, you can get there on Wednesday, get your dealer packet, get your helper badges, and you could drop your stuff off and get your preliminary setup, your tablecloths on.
Go
This
look at
way,
everyone else's stuff. Try to make some quick deals.
There's always quick deals happening, but you got an advantage because Thursday, when it comes around, you can really focus on making some doll hairs. And at the Max, you can't do that. It's no Wednesday, you can't do anything. So it's really a pain in the ass, especially for guys like me who have a bigger setup. I got to build showcases, plug stuff in. I got 7 tables, so it's a pain in the tuchus, and I don't like it. And I called the promoters. I was like, "Hey man, any chance of me getting in there a little early?" And they basically were like, "No, fuck you, buddy. Eat shit, kick rocks." They don't want anything to do with me, and that's
Bigger
fine.
than you, pal. It's bigger than you.
That's their right to say, but not even like a nice cordial email of like, hey Dante, thanks for being a life member. Here, let me tell you why we can't do that. No, I get none of that. I get tough shit. See you later, and that was it. So
You wanted to schmooze you a little bit more.
they didn't schmooze anything, man, and I'm disappointed. Disappointed.
Jeez, Bill, did you face the same struggles?
No, see, I got there and I was just, Dante had already told me, and I don't ever try to set up the day early. I mean, it's not important to me. So I was just going to wake up and go to it, and that's what happened. I mean, I know he wanted to get in early. I always thought that was part of the lifetime agreement, that if you were that, you got in a little earlier. But I guess the Max show's a little different. Again, Bill Combs is not running the OBMS anymore, so things are a little different. I get that in their defense, to what Dante said, they probably have 900 emails that night. So they're probably just trying to fly through them. And as much as he likes to be schmoozed and wined and dined, I mean, I kind of get it to an extent of why they're just like simple no.
But you also have to agree that they have in this day and age, they have an archaic system for everything related to getting tables, assigning tables, reserving tables. It's literally like playing phone tag with these guys, sending emails. Now they don't even answer the phone. You have to send an email, then they maybe get back to you, maybe they don't. It's totally archaic. They need to spend about, I don't know, 15 grand on a user-friendly website where you can just go in, plug in your tables, boom, buy them, reserve them, and you're done.
It can't even be 15 grand, dude. If I could go get if I could set up reservations for a table on the fly at a restaurant near me, why can't I do the same thing for a table at the Max? Like, because if they're available, it should be that easy.
It could be as easy as, like, how Ticketmaster is when you go, you look at a stadium layout and you're like, oh, I want that one. And then once you have it, even if you don't pay for it, it's like still not available to the next guy until like a couple hours go by. It could be the same kind of thing. Like, I don't see what's so hard about that. I mean, I'm sure there's weird logistical things that have to be worked out, but this system is just archaic and it's just beat.
I agree with that. I think actually what you just said about the Ticketmaster and everything else, those are in the restaurant. Those are great ideas. I myself showed up ready to go in that room, and I'm like, hi, I'm here for my packet. And they're like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, I usually have a packet. I'm pretty sure I have a packet. And they're like, we have no clue who you are. And
oh my God, what a nightmare.
Yeah, it was not very fun. Luckily, I'm like, hey, listen, I set up every year with Dante. Like, at the same time, I don't remember doing it, but I also don't remember not doing it. It's possible I forgot, but I'm pretty sure I paid for my tables. I pay for all the tables. The SOS is always taken care of. So I was like, why is this not taken care of? And why do you not have my tables? So luckily, I was able to get 3 wall tables next to Kelly Hicks, and I actually prefer the location. And I think I'm going to stick with it next year. Jeremy loved the traffic because Jason Burmeister is to the right, and his stuff's not really even for sale. It's more show and tell when you walk in the room. So if you take an immediate left, I'm the first German dealer in the room. So traffic was very, very good in front of my table. So maybe a blessing in disguise, I don't know, but it certainly seemed to have worked out for me.
Every time that sort of thing gets jumbled up, you guys, I mean, I've seen both of you get moved around a little bit here and there, and like, it's never hurt business. It's always been a good show.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you've got the goods, people are going to find you. That's pretty much the name of the game. But it was a little disconcerting because I'm trying to get set up and my table helpers are helping me out. And then it's like, I hear a whisper that Billy doesn't have tables. I'm like, oh shit. And people are looking at me for guidance. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what am I going to do? I got to get my shit set up. Like, Billy's a big boy. He can figure it out. I'm sure he'll be okay. He'll come to me if he needs something. Right. So luckily it all worked out like Billy said, and it was for the best. We're separated now. So it's not, we can't help each other as far as watching tables, but it worked out fine. I think it was fine.
Well, and just, the SOS, we used to set up together, and now we're at different areas of the room. And, at the same time, everything's still the same. We're still going out to dinner together. We're still after the show hanging out.
I was watching the tables next to me, which are normally yours and Tim's, and they were filling up. And then there's one table left. And I was like, yo, what's going on with that table, boys? And no one claimed it. And Tim had told me that he wasn't coming to the Max this year. So I'm like, well, I know it's not Tim's. He's not coming to the show.
And he ended up coming anyway, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, so right. So this is where it gets kind of funny because I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, I went up to the thing and I'm like, hey, can I get that table that's next to me? No one's filled it up yet. And they're like, well, you got to wait till 12 o'clock on Thursday, and if no one shows up by then, we can sell the table to you, which basically is like kind of a finder's keeper. It's like, if it's right next to me and I pay for it this year, the chances are good I can have it forever, right? So I want to get that table just to have it in line. Because Tim's abandoned it. Nobody knows what's going on with him. So they're like, yeah, we're waiting for this lady to show up. And they named some weird name, right? And I didn't recognize the name at all, the last name. And I'm like, well, I'd like to get it when it comes due. So literally 12:30 rolls around. I go pay for the table. I send Jen up there and get the table. Then Tim calls me. He goes, yo, the funniest thing is I'm here, but they don't have my table. Like,
oh man,
what the fuck? I didn't know you were coming. I'm like, dude, you could have called me and told me that you were coming. Then I would have been like, oh, I would have put 2 and 2 together. That's your table. But I guess he used his wife's maiden name or something, some weird, Indonesian name.
He's like, oh, no paper trail.
Oh, that's why you didn't recognize it. I was sitting here wondering, like, unless it was Mrs. Kramer, it doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't recognize that name because it was my table.
No sense.
I totally get it now. Yeah, that's what happened.
So I'm like, Tim, did you get a table? He's like, I got one. I'm like, are you cool with being there? He's like, I'm fine with that. I'm like, fine. Then I'm taking this table. He's like, it works for me. Fine. So it all worked out in the end. So it was good. But this is the game we play every show, and other people probably have similar experiences with this table hopscotch and stuff. It's kind of a pain in the ass, and it really doesn't need to be that way.
Well, I can tell you one thing, guys. I saw a lot of pictures hit the group chat this weekend, and I was hoping you guys could give me just a little bit of background information on what you sent, and I could live vicariously through you, and the viewers, maybe if they didn't get to go to the show, they could see a little bit of what it's like. So let's go through some pictures here in no particular order. Let's start with this one here. This looks like a decent option. A little overview of the show.
Yeah, so this is looks like a corner shot. I'm not sure where's the front of the build. Oh, I think that's the front on the left. Yeah, so anyways,
you're in the back of the room.
This is not the whole show, but it's a good portion of it, it looks like. And it just kind of gives you perspective of the size of the show. It's not an insanely large venue. It's smaller than the original Monroeville location. But it's about at least half the size of the SOS. So it's significantly smaller. So it's easier to do the show in a day and see everything compared to the SOS, where it'd be very difficult to see the whole show in one day. So you can spend time at each table. So it's a good 900 tables or so, something like that. And it's pretty full. There wasn't really many empty tables around.
Good turnout this year, yeah?
Well, that's a hot topic of discussion because the foot traffic I didn't see was there, and a lot of people were complaining about it. So with that being said, I don't know what's going on. I think the venue is a problem, and I don't want to say that there's not money to be made there, because if you have the right stuff and your prices are good, you should be selling stuff, right? But at the end of the day, when there's no retail foot traffic on Friday and Saturday, you're not going to really get a home run 9 out of 10 times. You're going to be like, what is going on? So, and I heard I heard a lot of dealers saying the same thing. So I know it wasn't me, and I wasn't like the catalyst to shit talk it, but people were like, what is going on? We can't continue to do this every year. Because if you're not familiar with York, PA, it's not exactly a happening town. It's a
small town.
It's a small town. It's got some nice small town vibes in the center of town, but it's not a destination, right? And the biggest problem is there's no major highways or major airports within a close drive. When I say close drive, I'm talking about within an hour. All right. So you have to take an hour of back roads and farm roads to get there from 95 or wherever,
which is fun. It's very fun, but it's not for everyone.
It can be, but when you're saying, people just don't want to go through that. They do it once, they're like, that was great, I don't want to do it again. And that's just the issue. It should be near a major, compared to the SOS, where the airport is literally 2 seconds down the road, right?
Yeah, you could walk there,
and it's an international airport. So now, for these other guys that are flying in from all over the world, and they gotta fly into Philly or Baltimore or Washington, and then drive up. It's not as convenient. It just doesn't make a lot of sense logistically. and it's a problem. And the hotel situation is.
Well, they'll get into the hotels in a second. I do want to ask Bill, what do you think about the foot traffic? You're another dealer. You're my other friend. What's going on?
So, I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. So I look at it from that perspective of like, good, I don't want anyone else in that room. I mean, I went out shopping and I hit several grand slams. I didn't hit a home run once or twice. I was a fucking shark in that room. I mean, I bought awesome. You know what I mean?
I feel like it would be really hard for a shark to play baseball, but
yes, but here's but not in what's the right word here? The contrast, the flip side to that is, Bill, last year you were saying the opposite. So I think it's like it depends on the year. True. It really depends on the year and how you hit things and what you're looking for. It could go either way.
I think last year I was maybe complaining about sales and retail traffic on public day. Maybe my sales numbers were not as strong, but I wasn't complaining about buying. And see, I bring, as we talked about, I bring things that matter to sell. Other than that, I could care less if anything sells. With that being said, I'm there to shop. I'm there to you don't make money selling, you make money buying. So that's what I'm doing in that room. So again, last year, I don't know that I was complaining I didn't buy well. I might have been complaining that sales were not good on retail day. But I agree with you. York, in my opinion, fucking sucks. I think they should try until they get it right. They should, I mean, the Carolinas, Atlanta, Virginia. I mean, there's so many other options on where to have this show and see how much traffic you can pull to it. I definitely prefer Monroeville, but that's me being, going to the Hall Pass after and hit the Pirates games. I like that kind of thing, being near Pittsburgh. That's what I liked about Monroeville more.
Yeah, there's so many more amenities in Monroeville as well.
But that's a dead horse. It's not coming back. I think the building is either being demolished or in process of. So it's not even a thing that we can we could reminisce and then that's it. But if you hear big name international dealers, because let's face it, it's a dealer's show, right? It really is. It's become a dealer's show where the major money is being traded back and forth by the dealers that Thursday, some on Friday, but that's where the money's going back and forth.
It's been like that for like a decade.
Right. So, but if you now get to the point where the international dealers are like, there's not enough tables for me to really make my money. Sure. Let's just say they come, a fictitious number. The dealer comes in with $100,000. Let's just say fictitious number. They come in with $100,000 and they go around like Billy and they scoop up everything that they need for inventory. And they're like, well, I only spent $30,000. I still got 70 G's to play with. This isn't really worth it because when you take into consideration my hotels, my airfare, my travel, my food, all my expenses, and then I get it back and then my margins, I don't know if this is worth it for me, right? Because we're talking about going international. So in the grand scheme of things, if you start to lose those guys, then really who's selling what? Yeah, more for Billy, more for me, but not everybody is doing that. Go ahead, Billy.
I don't think the European traffic will stop. It's funny because there's different worlds of Militaria, and in Europe, these things are worth certain amount of dollars more, euros rather. It's different. Like, okay, badges are hot, daggers are not as hot in EU right now. It fluctuates. I think the political culture in the European Union, I think they will always come here to get whatever they can and gobble out of that room. I mean, we saw it this show. I mean, there's the same 20 Europeans every show, and they all go out together. And I know all of them guys. I like them, but I don't think they are ever going to stop. I get the margins you're talking about from a business standpoint. I just don't see them ever not coming to these shows.
I honestly, I agree to disagree because I even heard Weitza up front. I just happened to be the right spot at the right time, but I was going to renew my membership for next year or my tables. And I heard Weitza carrying on to one of the girls at the desk. And he just kept carrying on and on about the problems with the show and the traffic and this, and the show's going to die. You can't let it continue this way. So that's a major international player. And if he's got enough gumption and to go up there and bend an ear, I think that's foreshadowing. It could lead to something down the road. I mean, I don't want to say that. I want the show. It's great for me. I love the show. It's only 3 hours for me. However, we want to keep it as big and as strong as possible, which is what Weitza is saying. So what are we going to do as far as talking to the promoters to make it better?
And again, I think that's where it comes down to. We should guess and check until we get it right. Maybe not have it, would anyone really complain if it was in Ohio or Atlanta? I mean, those are huge areas where a lot of people can get to. I mean, you do Kentucky, right, for the SOS, because it's in the middle of the country. A lot of people from all different areas can get to that central location. So in agreement with what you're saying there, with Weitza complaining about the venue, I mean, I guess I always see the Europeans coming. I think they're on our same page if they want to improve it. They want better traffic. They want more people in the room buying and selling. The more people you get, the more money everybody makes, regardless if those people
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you don't see like you used to, crazy things would walk right in the door on Friday and Saturday, right? Yeah. And you don't see as much of that anymore, and that's just because of foot traffic, So, and that's because I think a lot of it because of the location. I don't think the hobby's in trouble. I think the hobby's as strong as it's ever been, but the foot traffic there is horrible. But traditionally speaking, you want to keep the show in the Northeast. It's always been like in PA, or years ago it was in the Baltimore area, actually right by the Baltimore Harbor, I think it was back in the day when I was a little squirt. So maybe we bring it back there. Maybe we bring it to Philly, closer to Philly. I know expense is a problem. Getting a large venue for a reasonable amount of money is difficult. So, we're talking out of our ass a lot here because we don't know the behind the scenes negotiations, but at the same time, it's like they just threw a dart in the map and picked York, PA. It's like, well, this doesn't make any sense at all.
It does feel like an odd choice. And I think, spirited debate, but we can all agree on one thing. Weitzer's a big dog. He's got some weight to throw around. It's very possible that it does lead to some change. We're going to have to wait and see. And now let's move on to picture number 2.
Let's do it.
All right. What do we got here? Oh, it's a dinner pic.
Oh, man.
Tell me a dinner story from this trip, guys. Where'd you go?
You want to lead this one off, Billy?
So, yeah, this is the Indian restaurant, and I can eat lava. I can eat the hottest things on the planet. So, these people are like, are you sure you want it that spicy? And I'm like, dude, I want you to make this like stupid hot so I can enjoy this, because otherwise food in general is kind of bland. So we went out, and the service was great. I think I picked up the tab for the entire table on this dinner. Dante got the night after.
Right. It's a switch off.
Yeah, and it's a great time. It's kind of like the family, and again, we just had a really nice time. This was a good restaurant. York, much like Monroeville, we had our areas, we had our spots. Like we knew where to go. In York, we're trying to get into it. I mean, the place we ate after, the night later, I love that place. I definitely want to go back to the Indian place. This was delicious food. I think it was Hannah, Jen, who recommended it, and I think she hit the ball out of the park because I loved what I ate.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for a decent Indian place, and I've always struggled to find something that I really like, because believe it or not, I find a lot of Indian food that's prepared in the East Coast, at least, is on the bland side, if you can believe that.
I just had some great Indian food with my girlfriend last week over here in Dover, New Hampshire, man.
You probably got COVID while you were having that food.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That was my last memory before we had COVID. Yeah.
Well, you're familiar with samosas. It's kind of like the appetizer type of thing to get in an Indian place. And I'm always looking for the best one. And these guys had some samosas that were light and airy and crispy and fluffy and delicious. And they were a home run. And the dishes were fantastic. And, we like that you could order it at whatever spice level you want. But all the sauces tasted great. I had a hard time choosing what sauce to get because they bring out sauces to try first, which is really awesome. And so you're not kind of stuck with something like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have ordered that. All the sauces were fantastic. So this Indian food place, it's called Khamir or Hamir?
Hamir. It was Hamir. Do you remember when Will asked the guy if he was born in India? And I was like, no, he was born in fucking Ireland. And we roared. We all laughed like assholes.
Oh, man.
The guy was
classic
so cool.
Jokes.
The guy was totally the owner, the chef. I mean, he was so cool.
The chef / owner was fantastic. He came out, introduced himself, and made sure we were enjoying our meal. And just a super nice dude. But I want to tell you something that's awesome about this restaurant. And it sounds stupid, but you walk in and guess what? You don't smell curry. You don't smell curry. I'm not even kidding you. You walk in and it's just like, oh, this is just like a regular restaurant. So there's nothing off-putting, clean, just a great place. All right, let's go on to the next picture.
I had no idea that you guys enjoyed the spices of Mumbai.
How do you know it wasn't Dubai?
Because that's the UAE. So what do we got here? Whose table is this?
Well, Billy didn't get any pictures of his table, so these are just a couple of pictures of my table. So let's flip through them. Hey, we got some daggers. We got a train eagle. We got
a train eagle. Oh,
we got some Hitler stationery. Well, let's talk about the train eagle prices are going down. That's what it seems like.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't tell Bill. That's bad news. He's the king of train eagles.
It might be happening. There's a lot of talk about it, so we might be seeing a correction in the train eagle market. So, all right, next picture. We got some. Oh, I had a ton of great essays this show. Swords as usual don't sell. They never sell. So
they're too big. Nobody wants them.
Nobody wants swords.
They want to pick them up and they just put them right the fuck back down.
All right, next. What do we got? Oh, authentic Militaria, fantastic.
Table
so we got the back wall
good.
spot, which I love that back wall. Billy, now Billy's on the front wall. So we did the old switcheroo there. So we're covering the whole shebang. So the walls are the place to be for security, just to be able to relax and not have to watch your back. I love the wall. So, all right, what else we got there, Joshua?
Oh, this is a familiar face, Bill.
Yeah, this is Ben Mac Jackson. He's on the podcast, and I hadn't actually met him in person. And he's like, "Oh, I got to show my mom. I've talked about you for years." And so we took a nice selfie together, and I actually legitimately liked the way we look. I think this is a nice photo.
Yeah, it's good to
very
see you
wholesome.
guys. So we took a 5-minute union break. Viewers who are paying attention will also notice that my hat changed, and during that time, I don't want to contradict Dante too much, but I received word from Mac Show correspondent, who sometimes is also a war correspondent in Ukraine, Benjamin Mac Jackson. He did take pictures of Billy's table. So I'm going to share those now. Bill, speak to your table.
So again, I love the Jeremy posters in the background. He does make the display look really, really cool. And I think the lights, the lights are a pretty cool thing. Again, I only bring stuff that's really, really important to sell, or else I don't really care. There's a couple of things in there now I'm looking that I bought at the show and just kind of threw them in the case. But yeah, that's my stuff and my story, and I'm sticking to it. And again, thanks to Ben Mac Jackson of the Veterans History Project for being a great Mac Show correspondent and war correspondent in Ukraine.
Friend of the show and YouTuber. So we'll throw a link to Ben's channel in the description again. Why not? He's a good guy. We love him. I got some other pictures of your table here, though, Bill.
Fine, let's go. This visor, I love this visor. This came from the West Coast. The visor build didn't fare as well as the interior. The interior is just gorgeous. It's basically a brand new hat in the sense that he might have worn it in 1945 for a few months and put his hands in the air, and that was all he got used out of it. It is a mint gem. With the exception of the visor build, the lacquering on it has deteriorated, but that's more age than legitimate wear from the period. But that's a beautiful cap. Underneath it, I have the Junker civilian pilot badges, and I have the radio operator underneath it. Extremely rare stuff. Numerous comments about those. No one busted out their wallet for them, but good badges to have at the show. And I think I saw one other pair with the blue enamel, and they were in shit condition. The enamel,
those are great, Bill. What are those going for retail? I've never had.
So the top, the civilian pilot, the Lufthansa pilot above, I'd say $21.95. The radio operator, the smaller one, is actually a little more rare, and I want to say $2,600. But those are great badges, and I have the set.
Really eye-catching stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, the Lego head.
I do like the Lego head. I know it's not very professional, but people, the retail traffic love them. The kids love them, and Jeremy's always trying to sell stuff. He's got Lego toys, so he tries to sell those to the kids, and he does very well with it, actually. That cap is bad to the bone. That is something I had this awesome estate in Los Angeles. I got on a plane, flew back. I had that and an SSM-40 in my carry-on luggage. I saw it on the, I put it at the airport through the x-ray machine, and I saw my SSM-40 on the x-ray going through, and I was like, yeah, we'll see if this gets
probably the first time that's happened.
Yeah, no, and I brought several things through the airport. I've never been questioned about it. On that trip, however, my bag got searched, and I don't even know what they were looking for, but it wasn't anything military related. I might have had a cigar lighter in there. Anyway, he pulls out a Luftwaffe belt buckle, brocade. I'm like, well, here's what I do for a living and what it is. And he's like, oh, I know what it is. And it's like, you know what that is?
Yeah, right.
Just a little funny, funny thing at the airport. But I did, he did acknowledge what was in the bag. It was kind of funny.
Dude, a few years ago, I actually had a really awkward experience where I brought a backpack that had enough room in it for a helmet. And then I bought a firefighter's helmet with like the full comb. So it was like, kind of flashy looking, especially if you don't know what you're looking at. Put it in my backpack and it did end up getting searched and it got pulled out in front of everybody in the security line. And I'm standing there as the dude's like sort of just brandishing this swastika laden helmet around. And I'm like, this couldn't be a worse place for this to happen. So I'm glad that didn't happen to you.
At least you lived to tell about it, buddy.
I did. We got a couple others, I think. There we go. Speaking of helmets.
So this is another great thing about the show. I did not sell this helmet. I have 12,995 on it, 13,000. However, as soon as I got home, guy said, hey, saw that helmet. Again, I set up next to Kelly Hicks and Kelly's like, oh my God, I love this helmet. The lot number, everything matches up. This helmet sold and is currently on hold as soon as I got home. So somebody looked at it in hand at the show, didn't have the money at the show, but came back when they got home, was like, that's a gem and I want that. So that was kind of a cool thing.
Awesome, dude. I love to hear a success story. And I think I got one more. Nope, I don't. That was it.
Thank you for
Hope you enjoyed your 15 minutes of fame, Bill.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Ben McJack. Now, first of all, you gotta like the trio of shorts. The combination of shorts here is really fantastic. I mean, we couldn't match less if we tried to.
It's like three generations of shorts technology.
It's fantastic. But you got Ben McJackson, me, and then if you guys don't know who that is on the left, Ran Zoo. We should talk about Ran Zoo because Ran is he's kind of a Facebook favorite.
I've known him from Facebook, never met the guy.
Right.
He's extremely knowledgeable on Pulitzer.
He likes Pulitzer stuff.
Extremely knowledgeable.
He's very good. But let me tell you something. So I've invited Rand to come work behind the tables for a long time, and I finally got him out. And he's fantastic with customers. He really likes to talk to the guests. He likes to shoot the shit with them, small talk. He's very good with all types of customers, and he's very knowledgeable. If you point to something in the case, he knows what you're talking about. And a lot of the helpers, you point to something in the case, you say, "Can I see the proper name for it?" And they're like, "What? Point to it. I don't know what you're talking about." So he's very on top of it. A funny story though about him is Ran is I think originally born in Beijing. I think he told me. And he came over here when he was 13 and he got into collecting from his uncle or some long story. But the bottom line is there's this Chinese dude that walks by the tables and he's like looking at a bunch of some of the nicer edge weapons. Right. And, I could tell he was a little hesitant. Maybe the English wasn't all there. And he walked by and then he came back and then Rand was back by the tables. And all of a sudden I turn around and Rand showing him all these daggers and speaking fluent Mandarin with the guy.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like elbowing the other guy. I'm like, dude, look at this. Fucking he's speaking Mandarin. I'm like, these are probably the only two Chinese dudes in the whole hobby. They're right here. And magic is happening right now. So it was fantastic to see him in action. And the guy bought a couple of daggers straight away, and then he came back at the end of the show and bought another 3 or 4 daggers from Rand. Didn't want anything to do with the white guys, but he loved him some Rand. But he kept going back to us for some pricing because he thought that Rand wasn't in control of pricing. So he kept saying, "No, ask him for a better price." So he kept coming back to me, and I was like, "No, I'm like Rand's in charge. He's doing this thing." So it was just really awesome to see Rand in action. So kudos to him. Thank you to Rand, and look forward to having Rand behind the tables again in the future for sure.
Shout out to Rand. Yeah, I got to be honest with you, buddy. You have some pretty good taste in table helpers. I know you said the other guy a second ago, but I know who you really meant was my man, Will Dokus.
Oh, little Will Dokus action. Where is Will Dokus?
Love Will, dude. Was just talking to him the other day. Probably the one thing that everybody knows about Will from hanging out with our group is that he doesn't talk about it very much. You hear him talk about his woodworking. You hear him talk about his family, his beautiful family. You don't hear him talk about his career as a pilot. So if you guys run into Will at the table at any of Dante's shows, just say, hey, tell me about your time working as an agricultural pilot, and he'll tell you all about it. It's interesting stuff.
I was gonna say Will's done a lot. You don't realize, so he loves to talk about it too. So bend his ear, and Ben Rand's ear too. He's been through a lot of stuff too. So both in the military, but by the way, and they're very humble guys, both of them, and they both served. Unlike me, I did not do my part, and I'm very ashamed about that. But these guys, I feel like, hey, come on into the fray.
Moving on. Looks like, who do we got here? Who's this?
Oh, Jesus. All right. Let me tell you something about this. So we're going around and we're asking some of the big dogs if they would like to be on the podcast. So Billy has this fantastic idea. Well, if most of our viewers are aware that Tom Whitman has his own, what does he call it? Like a show tour journal. He calls it a journal, a show journal. So he hasn't done the journal in a while. So he did the journal for this show. So, his son Rob's running around with the camera doing things, and Billy had a great idea. Oh, let's go talk to Rob and let's have a little conversation with Whitman about getting on the podcast. So I can't even hold a straight face because, first of all, we love Tom. He has no idea what a podcast is, right? We're going to have him on the show eventually. We're going to get him there. It might take some time, but we're going to get it. We're talking to him about being on the podcast. The whole time he has no idea what a podcast is or what we're talking about. Rob is in the background. I mean, like, no, you just got to talk, Dad. Like, really funny. But then, of course, he starts talking about my dad's naughty video collections that he would send Tom back in the early 90s or late 80s or whatever.
He used to send him to Tom?
Apparently it was a thing, and Tom has to bring this up every single time he talks about my dad. So it's like, your dad was a great guy. He's the funniest guy. He's an awesome, honest guy, and eye for detail, bought the best stuff, and he sent me the best dirty movies. And it's like, oh my!
I don't have
God.
any friends that I'm that close with where I'd be like,
you
you got to see
believe
this, man.
Go ahead, Billy.
It's funny that Tom Whitman associates you and your father with, and that's pretty much right out of the gate. What he says.
Touché. He said, I love it.
Oh man,
Good
the amount
stuff.
of bleeps in this episode.
But go back and if you go and watch the show journal, at the end of the journal is us talking to Tom, and he goes into this whole tirade about it, and it's like cringy because I'm just sitting there going, I'm like, oh my God, when is he going to stop talking about this? You know what I mean? So, and then at the same time, take it away, Billy. Bill Panagopoulos.
The reason I'm just cracking up, we look like a couple of schlubs in this photo. This is hilarious. The reason I'm cracking up, so Robbie starts recording his dad, right? We start to spiel, and Bill Panagopoulos just says something ruthlessly obnoxious. I don't know what it was, but Robbie shut the camera like, no fucking way, no.
Yeah, he shut the camera. We had to do it again because Bill was so inappropriate.
Sounds like Bill P.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So Bill P's now on timeout for talking. So Robbie starts recording again, and Bill P unzips his fly right in front of me, staying on the opposite side of me, and through his underwear starts flashing the shaft of his fucking dick. And I'm sitting here trying to do this interview with Tom, and apparently maybe Tom saw it because he immediately went to start talking about porn. I don't know where.
Oh man.
But it was one of the most inappropriate fucking things I've ever seen.
What is going on in this hobby?
Oh my
But again,
God.
Bill P just being classic Bill P. That's just
Oh my Lord.
So that is why, if you watch the video on YouTube, I'm laughing at the start of the interview, and that's because I'm laughing at this schlub's fucking dick hanging on his pants.
I just
So if
saw
you're
him
worried,
zip
if
his
you're at
fly,
home,
and that was it.
if you're worried at home and you're like, I don't know if I could hang out with these people at the show, aren't they like academics? Aren't they like history nerds and like learned scholars of the
Nope.
hobby? No, it's a lot of stuff like this.
No, we are classless, regular people. I mean, that's really how I would describe us. We try to have class, but it just falls apart.
You're all classy to me, just like you're both my one friend.
Thanks.
All right. What do we got for another picture here?
What's next?
Who's this clown?
Oh, dude, it's the Tin Man, bro. Josh,
What about him?
You remember the Tin Man? So
I
you
don't remember this.
So look, no, the Gift Horse. So that's that place in town where they have it's an outside venue where remember they had that food truck where the food really sucked that one
Oh
time?
man, but they had the fireplace tables.
Yes.
Yes.
And they had the
Yes.
big screen TV, and it was football.
Dude, that
So,
place
like,
is great.
We
It
wanted to
is
go
great.
watch football, and unfortunately, we got there. This statue is cool, but we got there. It was like open mic night for people who just have problems to sing about, and it was fucking.
Oh man, the tree hugger nonsense that was coming out of these mics is just horrible. Josh, you probably would have liked it, but I couldn't hang it all.
I would have liked it. I
Yeah.
Well, you are,
appreciate
yeah,
this.
they were singing about WIPAs and beanie.
It would double IPAs, and this is the greatest sour I've ever had. Blah, blah, blah.
I am not a sour guy, but
No,
if they're enjoying a nice double IPA, maybe they got nothing.
No,
to
it was
complain about.
honestly it was bad music. It was not very good.
But you can go on. So we went to the Gift Horse. It's a brewery.
Go. There's
and,
more. There's another picture of the Gift Horse in there somewhere. Not this.
No,
one. This
there's
is-
my friend Will.
That's
There's
the
Willie.
pilot. Yeah, the commercial pilot. Yeah,
I call him
That's
Willie.
my
He
friend
doesn't
Will.
I don't know why he doesn't buy my commercial pilot badges, considering he's a pilot.
He's not a commercial pilot, buddy. He's an
Oh, sorry.
agricultural pilot.
I misunderstood. I apologize.
He's an agricultural pilot. Just ask him. He'll tell you all about
Yeah, he
crop,
looks like
crop
one.
dust in the fields and stuff growing up. He's a farm boy. He'll tell you about it.
God, come on, let's go. Next one.
This is
Same-
the Indian place again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just dinner.
We love that Indian place. Go back.
This
Did we get
gentleman
any-
in the middle looks a hell of a lot better in this one, though. It's a good. We're gonna leave this up on screen for a second, just so that he gets redemption.
Okay.
Okay. What's this here?
Okay. So you guys know Matt Janowski? Do you know him? Anyone know Matt Janowski?
I know the name.
So he's like a bayonet guy. He's like really good with etch bayonets. So he kind of introduced himself to me, and we were just kind of shooting the shit. And he's a very friendly guy, very nice dude, tall dude. You can't miss him. Kind of up in your fucking height there, Josh. You
We
guys
probably
might be
talked
best of
then. It's
pals.
it's a thing is a lot of times you're in the secret tall guy club and you just
I
know each
love
other
the
by height.
Grand Admiral behind in the background.
Yeah. So basically, he hangs out with Mark Todd, and he was they're at their tables doing some basically these little cherry bomb shots. Have you seen these before? This is not like a new thing, but not a lot of people have heard of them. Basically, they're just cherries, Marciano cherries, soaked in like this super crazy grain alcohol. You could light that shit on fire all day long. But yeah,
Damn.
they're doing little freaking cherry bombs behind the table while they're talking to people. So they're all liquored up on cherry bombs.
We
That's
should
pretty
say
sneaky. I like that.
Allegedly, they were doing this, and
Allegedly.
allegedly, there's
Yeah.
alcohol in there because we don't want to get them kicked out of the OV.
These were not alcoholic
Right, we
cherries.
had no clue what was in the cherry.
They were plain cherries.
It's
Yeah.
hard to imagine making a maraschino cherry even less healthy, but it seems like this was, this is how it's done.
That's possible. Whatever happened to that guy that used to go around with a cooler handing out Miller Lights and Heinekens?
Hey, that guy was the man.
Did he die?
I hope he didn't die. I know. Yeah, he gave me. He,
He
wanted
wasn't
to buy a
there this
blockade.
year.
He wanted to give me a blockade runner.
His
set.
name is Al, I think.
Yes,
His
and
name-
he did. He was a Mac Show guy. Yeah, he was a Mac Show guy.
He used to come up to me.
Yeah.
He used to ask me every show what my name was, and then, oh yeah, Chip, you're Chip's son. I knew Chip. He was a great guy. Oh yeah, and every show was the same conversation. So not a
I've
very
never
good
spoken
memory.
more than one or two words to that man in my life, but he always gave me a free beer. This picture of backpacks, this was sent to the group chat a couple times. What's the deal? Tell me the story.
All right. So here's the deal. So a couple of days before the show, no, actually, well before the show, Galen actually tells me that one of his longtime customers is going to be selling his whole collection, and it's crazy stuff. I go, great. Give me all the information. I would love this lead. I even told Billy about this, and I would love this lead, and da da da. He never really gave me the information, right? Because I guess the guy was just gun shy, and he decides that he's going to sell it all himself. I mean, I'm not trying to air dirty laundry, but the guy has some health issues, and basically he needs to liquidate his whole collection, and he's got top of the line shit. I mean, most of it's top of the line anyway. There's some nonsense mixed in there, but I mean, all the good stuff was purchased through Galen David, and Galen gave him his best stuff. Like if it was good and Galen said this is a top piece, the guy would be like, great, here's my money, take it. So he had an insane amount of top shelf items. I mean, probably the best NEPA dagger that you've ever seen, a general's tunic that Billy was trying to get which I didn't know was the one Billy wanted. So Billy, go talk about that.
Yeah, so I think I don't know if I was the one who took this photo. This is all the Europeans. Jaremetta's in there too, I think. This is all the Europeans fighting over this. I felt bad for the guy because I talked to him afterwards and he's like, yeah, people were like switching price tags on me. And he had a hot daughter trying to run things with him too. And I got up there, I bought 2, but it was a feeding frenzy. It was just, everybody pounced on this guy and they were trying to confuse. I mean, it really was kind of like savage. And it's like, yeah, but you did this to yourself. Like, how did you not know this was going to happen? And I remember a story, Dante, there's horror stories in the past about like, when people, daggers, for instance, people are selling daggers and they would put the price tag on a scabbard for the SI dagger. So, in theory, if you wanted a better deal, there would be people who would just switch the scabbards and hey, your dagger's now a $600 dagger instead of a $1,200 dagger. So there's always shit like that kind of going on at the shows. And I kind of like said to the guy, like, you did this to yourself. I remember going through his daggers and there's like a Himmler SS about to fall on the ground. It's like, I'm grabbing it before it falls to put it back on the table, like trying to save this guy's shit. But people are just rifling through stuff like man,
sounds like chaos.
It was chaos. And yeah, so this is one table in the room where, the
yeah, and what sucks about it, guys, is that Galen told him point blank that what he was doing was the wrong way to do it. And he told him you can't go there with people that don't, because the people he had behind the tables had no idea what he had, what they were looking at, not even a fundamental, like, basic knowledge. So it didn't take anything for people to switch stuff around. And there's no showcases. Everything was just spread out on the tables. Or
boxes. You can't be doing that.
It was just opening one box.
Oh my God. It was crazy, dude. It was crazy. And supposedly he lost, I mean, between price switching and stuff, he lost probably, 20, 25 G's, but he made, honestly, you could buy a house with what he sold. And I'm sure that he bought stuff 20 years ago. So he doubled his money on probably everything.
I mean, good for him, but still, that sucks. And honestly, that feels like more predatory than I expected. You'd think people would show a little respect for a bunch of nice stuff hitting the floor at a show, because it's probably going to get circulated for the foreseeable future amongst other dealers at that show.
He did have something that is very dear to my heart. I get there. I don't know what, I think it was Thursday morning. And this is like maybe 45 minutes into the show. And this is what you see at his table. And I look on the back wall. I have searched for years for an original. That's a big part of this. There's others out there, but they've been fucked with, or, the boards are replaced, or it's a humped up artillery Waffenrock. He had a General Lieutenant with an EK2 Spange and loops for a DK. To find that with the Spange and the loops is actually a very hard thing to come across in this hobby. And I know this because I've searched for like 10 years and I could never find the one. Mike Davis on his website has one from 20 years ago that he sold, and he's like, I haven't seen another. So long story short, there it is on the wall, and he's got $15,000 on it. I'm like, hey, what do we take for it? And he's like, I sold it at 13. And I was like, fuck. And this is literally like half an hour, 45 minutes into the show, and it got gobbled up immediately. And that's expensive for a General Tunic. However, it was named. There was a photo of him in a POW camp. I don't know the name off the top of my head. I inquired and I said, hey, listen, if the buyer doesn't come up with a 13, I'll give you 15,000 cash right now. And he's like, oh, I wish I would have known that. I would love to take your extra $2,000. I need it. I'm retiring. I said, well, keep it. And I wasn't trying to snake it out from the other guy, but I said, if he does not pay, I'll give you your full price. Just let me know. Yeah. So long story short, the guy ended up paying for 2 days. I searched that room of who bought that. I asked everyone, and it was funny. I kept going back to that table. Like, do you remember the guy? Because I was going to tell the guy, like, hey, I'll trade exponentially for that. Like, that's the one I'm looking for. I have about 50 uniforms in my collection. In my opinion, I have probably one of the best uniform collections in the world. I do not have an Army General. I have everything else, but I don't have that. But I'm saving myself, like the holy virgin I am, for one with an EK2 Spange and loops for the German Cross in gold. With that being said, they were like, oh, I think it's this guy. And this guy was like, you're the fourth person who asked me. I didn't buy that uniform. Quit coming up to me. So I had other people in the room trying to find this jacket for me. And I finally, when we were out dinner at the fish place, Mike Davis was like, oh, so-and-so told me that he bought an amazing General's uniform. at the show. And I said, where is he? And he's like, he's right in that first aisle. And I'm like, well, that would make sense because he would have seen it 3 tables away. So long story short, I did get in contact with the guy, and the guy told me, he's like, there's no line, you'll get it if I sell it. I just want to get it home and kind of play with it and look at it, but it'll go to you. And that was an awesome thing for me. And in this hobby, you meet people who are honestly good people. There's so much hoarding, and it's disgusting of no, I'm not going to sell you that. That's in my collection. To an extent, it's nice when you come across somebody who's I can tell you really, really want this. And you spent 2 days, I've heard you looking for this in the room. I'm going to make it happen for you. Don't you worry. I'm not going to fuck you over. It will go to you. And that was a super cool thing. And I shook his hand and we exchanged contact information. And that piece came from Galen. And I don't have anything. I have a lot in my collection, from Chip, your dad, but I don't have anything from Galen. So in a way, it would kind of be cool to get that because it did come from Galen.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And like you said about people kind of getting that connection with people, be like, yeah, I will sell it to you. Because there's this weird thing with some people who are just like, no, I'm going to die with this. And you're just like, what, why, what, and then what? And then your wife sells it for a 20th of what it's worth. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And I won't mention names. I have been after a government official advisor for a decade. And I could never, I found other ones with, zinc insignia, and they were kind of shitty, and they were like $6,000, and I could never find the one. I have a jacket, have the pants and everything else, the dagger. I needed the hat. And there was a collector who would not sell me the hat. And I know where it is. And it's but you have 270 hats. You can't let one go. You need all of them. And it's I don't care. Name your price. I'll give it to you. And
he's probably 70 something years old.
Well, not necessarily. Yes and no, but he's also when I get something good, when I get a Fallschmager smock out of the woodwork, guess who gets a phone call? And it's well, I would trade it to you for this item. Oh, you want my SSM 42 mint helmet? Yeah, I would trade it for that hat that I want because I have everything else except the hat, and he wouldn't do it. So long story short, I told this story to somebody else who is a friend of mine, and lo and behold, underneath George Peterson's table, this immaculate visor shows up. And that is, it's even actually nicer than the one I wanted out of the guy's collection. So it's kind of a neener of I fucking finally found it. I did it.
Neener.
It is gorgeous, man.
It is. It's
freaking beautiful.
It's gorgeous, dude. And it's the exact one I needed. And it just happened to be there. And again, talking about great people in the room, I give my bucket list. My bucket list is not even small. I've handled so much of it, not everything special. I have maybe 10 things that I really, really want, right? And this was one of the pieces. So I've handed out my bucket list to a few select people, and somebody remembered this was on it and said, and they called me immediately hey, listen, it's under the table. I got it. Come over here. And not only that, I got it for a great price. It doesn't matter if it's worth $10 million. I'm not selling it, but I was even happy with what I paid for. So my show was probably the best show I've ever had. I hit grand slams buying in the room. I bought things for my personal collection, and I sold a ton of stuff.
Terrific, man.
I couldn't fit enough. I couldn't fit the money in. I had to go get more envelopes for my money. That's how much I left.
Wow.
Look at this guy tooting his own horn.
It's not like that. It's just a really great show. But at the same time, I bring good stuff. So good stuff sells. So it was
because I wasn't there to take a little bit more of that money off your hands, Bill, and I'll do better for the SOS. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, see,
Dante,
viewers, he wouldn't shave the mustache, so I told him not even to show up.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to go. If I don't have a mustache, I can't help on the table. Dante, I know that you got a good win at this SOS as well, and I'd like to check that out before we finish things off here.
Oh boy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got your butt.
Oh yes. No, this little guy came by. I'm not like Billy. I'm the opposite. I'm there to move inventory. But when stuff comes to the tables and I can make a buck on it and I like it, I would buy it. So there's this dude that comes around every show, and he's some kind of foreign dude. I should probably know his name, but he's always hawking blades. And I've never really found anything that was I like it. I can make money on it too. But I did like this little RZM 80736, which I believe to this day we don't really know who makes it. So this
mysterious.
Ooh, mysterious. So it's a transitional. You'll notice it has nickel
Yeah.
fittings,
Nickel.
but it's got an RZM blade, right? So it's a transitional. We don't know who it is, but everything is right with this dagger. It looks great. But the bonus with this dagger is that it's actually a published dagger. So it is in Ralph Siegert's SS book. It's on page 202 and 203. And if you look at the picture in the book, the blade looks actually worse in the picture than it does in real life.
It does.
So he had this little binder that he made up with, the pages from the book and a couple other pages from the book. So I was like, oh, I'll snag the binder too, if you don't mind. And it's just a nice little package. And it's always nice to pick up a published item. Billy knows a lot about getting things published. It just gives you a little bit more confidence in the item. It makes it a little bit more desirable. So when I saw it and the price was right, I jumped on it. So yeah, that'll be available on the website shortly.
To talk about that dagger too, I agree. The blade is beautiful compared to like the photos of the Maker Mark. Kind of gave the impression it wasn't as nice as it is.
Right. Yeah. J. Armada came up and looked at it too, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this looks way better in person than it does in the book." So, but it's the same. If you look, Josh, go back one picture, if you don't mind. So if you look on the right-hand side of the RZM, there's that little slash, that imperfection, that little slash mark, going kind of kitty corner in the corner of the blade. And you can see it on the actual blade. It's there too. The little, just a random slash. So it's the same exact piece.
I love the rune.
It's cool
pattern.
to see.
My favorite rune pattern on the handle. I love that.
Yeah, it's nice. And it hasn't been polished in forever. I mean, it still has the dirt and grime on it from the original photos. So it's a nice little untouched piece. So I like it. I was happy about it.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad to see you guys both got some stuff that tickled your fancy and it wasn't all just selling. It's nice to have that passion.
Yeah, passion of the Christ. What? I don't know.
That's an interesting way to go with it.
What else do we do? Is that all the
Strange
pictures? Are we
move.
done? Are we done with the pictures?
That's all the pictures. That's all the pictures. And we talked about this. We didn't really know how to like close this episode off. Like we were like, okay, we'll talk about we'll talk about the Mac show and we'll kind of figure out what's going on with that and we'll catch up everybody on that. And then we were like, well, how do we end it? Because we can't just have just one topic for the whole show. That's crazy, even though we have done that before. But in this situation, we were like, that's crazy. So I posted on the Militaria collecting subreddit and I was like, hey, do you guys have any items that you would consider to be haunted? And I'm asking because, it's just about October and we're getting into Halloween times and it's time to get kind of spooky and drink a pumpkin beer and have Dante yell at you and make fun of you for it and grow a beard and wear a beanie cap. You could do all these things. It's
I love
fall.
spooky things.
Exactly. So I was like, well, maybe we could get something going on that. So we're going to read a couple of them. And if you guys like this, then we'll do it again, during the season. But I'm just going to give you guys just a couple of them that I thought were interesting. And we'll see how you like it. I'll even add some sound effects, which will start sometime soon.
Oh, stop.
I'm going to read this one as it was written. So, take that into consideration. I remember that there were some interesting stories that other collectors have shared on War Relics a while back about this very topic. Personally, I had a couple of ghost encounters before, most likely tied to one of the 2 KIA canteens I own. One day, I was cleaning my display with the relic condition German WW2 canteen with shrapnel damage, and the moment I grabbed it, suddenly I felt watched. A few seconds later, I heard the door creaking, as if somebody was walking in the hallway. I had the door open. That's in parentheses. Had the door open. And it freaked me out. It freaked me the fuck out. The feeling of being watched is still sometimes happening to me to this day, but nothing too crazy. One time, when I had a friend over who was interested in my collection and came to check it out, it happened again. And then this is in parentheses. The moment I started talking about the canteen, we suddenly both felt watched and heard footsteps in the hallway. Close parentheses. Now, I kind of just got used to it a while. I understand it might just be my mind fucking with me. I still made it clear to whatever spirit is there that I'm okay with them being here as long as they don't do bad things. I told them I'm just here to preserve history and make sure they or whoever had that canteen is remembered. Whatever it is, it appears to be a friendly, and it doesn't do any harm. A seems to be making itself known only when something is done to the canteen. Despite the canteen most likely causing these things, I never got rid of it. It sort of just became something I value even more due to the things that keep happening. All right, boys, weigh in.
So, real quick, can you imagine getting to heaven and St. Peter's like, you want to come in? And you're like, no, I'm going to go back and haunt that canteen in that guy's fucking garage right now.
I'm going to be a canteen.
Let me tell you, this guy is 100% also a conspiracy theorist. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, I can't say, hey, listen, hey, he answered the question, gave me the answer I was looking for.
I mean, you went fishing and he took the bait, right? So, but whatever. I mean, I think it's hilarious, but I like how passionate he didn't just write a quick thing like, oh yeah, I got this weird SS thing and I think it's kind of spooky. I mean, he went all in on this question.
I got another good one here for you. This one is by a guy who his flair says that he is interested in World War I to the Yugoslav wars. So this one's got a little bit more, different time periods to it. He writes, I have had some strange experiences with my collection, but they are very infrequent, and these are all of my stories after about 10 years of collecting. I had recently bought a relic M1 helmet when from across my room I heard a woman quietly saying, American soldier, is he dead? Pretty spooky stuff, huh? Now, he goes on. I have a damaged British Army jacket where if it isn't stored in the correct way, I hear screaming and mortars at night.
What the fuck?
Can you imagine how loud your entire inventory room would be? And also I wanted to comment back. I'm sorry to interrupt the post, but I wanted to comment back and be like, how did you learn how to store it correctly? Was it just trial and error?
Just let me move it around until I don't hear screaming anymore.
Every night, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, everybody can't sleep to all the mortar sounds, but I didn't realize it doesn't like wire hangers. It has to be a velvet hanger.
Can you imagine having a dinner party and be like, what the fuck is that?
Sorry, that's just my British Army jacket upstairs. I got it draped over a chair.
It doesn't like being in a closet. I have to bring it out, let it get fresh air, or else I have mortars.
It also wants a seat at the table.
He's doing God's work figuring it out. All right, he goes on. He says, I have a heavily used 1944 Lee Enfield bayonet, which gives off an incredibly strange feeling when it touches anything German.
What the F?
Once again, I was thinking about how do I respond to this because I'm like, were you just whacking it on stuff? He's just poking German stuff.
He's rubbing it on everything like a.
This is my friend Klaus.
Oh, you freaking
I stabbed
pervert.
him with this bayonet, and he did not like it. Weird feeling.
Oh God.
When I first started collecting, he's closing it out. When I first started collecting, I joked about ghosts, but these experiences have changed my mind on it. My collection is decent size and rather varied, and I get stuff from a lot of different sources, some of which are questionable or unknown.
Ooh.
The source is unknown.
Unknown sources. So you just found it in the fucking gutter? Like, what are you talking about?
I like the idea of I came outside in the morning and there was just a helmet there. If you have a haunted item, leave a comment because we want to hear about it. I need to know more of these tales of the macabre, these spooky tales from the Militaria world. What do you guys think? You guys have any haunted items at home? Any weird stuff ever happen over there?
Absolutely nothing. I don't believe in any of that stuff, and nothing has ever happened. Nothing that's even subjective. Like, oh, I heard a spooky noise. Like, nothing. I mean, I don't understand where any of these people are coming from, but I don't subscribe to that. So this is all really fascinating stuff that I'd like to hear about because it's just so just outlandish to me.
I think your technique's off, dude. I think the real problem is you're not trying to just bang German bayonets off stuff and just see how the energy
I'm
feels.
doing it wrong. Yeah, you're saying I'm doing it wrong.
Bill, what about you?
Maybe.
In my collection, I mean, I do, I'm going to do a book eventually. So I actually personally think it's incorrect and wrong to collect one side of the fence and not the other. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, the Holocaust stuff. It's it's too much. And it's like, no, you have to tell the entire story of what happened. I have inmate uniforms. I had an urn lid from Dachau, and it was the only thing that survived this guy. He was from Georgia. He died of typhus. Anyway, I have things that are terribly morbid, and I don't have anything like that in my life. So I do have things that if something was going to have anything attached to it, negative energy, whatever you will, it does not. So I kind of agree with Dante of I haven't experienced anything. But maybe there is legitimate stuff. We don't know everything in the world. I mean, I hope people have a legitimate story that we share on the podcast, and we don't just make fun of them for dinging bayonets on things. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. All
right, boys. Well, it sounds like if you're a listener out there, you've met a couple of skeptical guys here. So we need to hear your story and turn them into believers. But this has been a good episode, boys. I think we can call it there. And let's plug the websites. Before we plug the websites, let's just say, why don't you guys give me a out of 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. How was your show? Rate the show. Dante, starting with you.
I'm going to give it a solid 7. I hit my quota where I wanted to be, but I felt like I could have done more if there was more foot traffic.
All right. And Billy?
I had a 10 out of 10. I said it was probably the best show I've ever had. Buying, selling, and things for my personal collection. I hit all 3 out of the park.
Awesome. Okay, and also I just want to include COVID. 0 out of 10. Don't recommend it. But feel free to take a nap, even if you don't have COVID. You deserve it. You earned it. My name is Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria. I've been here hanging out with Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
War-relics.com. Don't forget the hyphen.
And my friend Billy Kramer of Wehrmachtmilitaria.com.
I am Wehrmacht Military with a hyphen. Don't forget the hyphen. This was a lot of fun. This is a good episode.
Awesome. Boys, I'll catch you next time.
Later.
Later.